As the world begins to spin again and travel plans get back onto calendars, what felt normal before now feels different. Which is why when you fly, there's only one choice that offers the safest, easiest way to park. John F. Kennedy International Airport. Now, when you pre-book, you'll experience parking that's simple, seamless, and contact-free. Upon entry and exit, your license plate will be scanned and the gate will automatically raise. Plus, you'll always save money when you pre-book online. So book now at jfkairport.com/parking.
Visit Hellsberg.com for safe and easy ways to shop this holiday, like free shipping and returns, virtual shopping appointments, or buy online and pick up in store. And right now, get a free Microsoft Surface Go 2 with the purchase of $1,499 or more. You gift, you get. Limited time offer while supplies last. See online or in store for details.
What's going on? You're tuned into the Cigars with Mac podcast. That's right. We're back. We are back. Today, I want to discuss the myth of being a housewife. The myth of being a housewife. Yeah. Something I hear a lot of women say, a lot of single women, they say they want to be a housewife. You know, the typical June Cleaver. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. That's the mom on Leave It to Beaver. Now, the fact of the matter is, over 70% of households is two-income households. What does that mean? That means that the majority of married couples are two-parent households. The majority of married couples are two-parent households. So, I'm sorry, two-income households, because not all married couples have children. So, as a married man who's been married 14 years, my wife at one period has had the luxury of being a stay-at-home mom. So don't get me wrong, I'm not against it at all. But for her, she enjoys working. And I think when you both, have stuff going on as far as work, during the day, it makes for a better relationship to a degree. A lot of times I like watching the show Divorce Court. I watch it because one, is entertaining, and two, I want to stay the fuck up out of there. I think we all like watching that show. So anyway, I watched the show Divorce Court, and A lot of times the women, I hear them when they say, I'm staying at home with the kids, and he'll complain and say, yeah, when I get home, she just hand the baby to me. And then she says, well, I've been with the baby all day. And usually Judge Toiler, she's now retired from the show, she'll tell the woman, hey, that's your job. That's your gig. You stay at home. And I feel her on that. But at the same token, I feel the woman also like, man, I've been with your baby all day long. There still has to be a bit of balance. Got to be a bit of balance. So, you especially if she's a stay-at-home wife that cooks, cleans, actually engaging with the child, it's best, especially if it's a newborn, to the best of her ability. That's a job. That's a job. And we're not talking about if you have multiple kids. That's a job, man. And we're not talking about somebody that's on welfare. We're talking about an upwardly mobile couple where the man, goes out and earns the bacon. That's what we talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Anyway, on the show, I see that a lot of times those women that stay at home, either A, they don't do shit at home all day, so that causes a strain on the marriage, or B, they do, but they get burned out. And they're in divorce court. Now, my whole take on that is, and also I rarely find those people say that they save a lot of money. They usually have financial issues, and it's just really jacked up, man. So when I see that, and I see women out here say they want to be a stay-at-home wife, at least these single unmarried women, I'm like, man, do you know what comes with that? That's a lot. That's a lot. And we spoke about this on a previous podcast of mine. We spoke about it. And my whole take on it is, in 2020, that's damn near impossible unless a man is making, 250 grand plus. Everybody has this proclivity that they make six figures out here. I already know they lying. Because for the most part, depending on where you are, six figures is really just tipping the scale. You really can't live a comfortable life like you want to. And I want you to imagine that if you are a stay-at-home wife, let's just imagine if you are a stay-at-home wife and your husband's going out working and something happens to him. What are you going to do? What are you going to do if something happens to him? Whether he has his own business or whether he works for an employer. What are you going to do? That stay-at-home wife sounds good until shit starts to get real. Now I could imagine that being a stay-at-home wife, for the most part, the budget gets a little tight. I will tell you why. One, the average man is thinking, hey, you're a stay-at-home wife. We're not going to eat out that much. You're going to cook all the meals. And I'm going to tell you, man, I remember when I was unemployed at one time and, my wife was working and I was staying at home, I cooked damn near every day. My son enjoyed me cooking hot meals and he came home. That was just a good thing he enjoyed. And it didn't touch my manhood, don't get me wrong. But that shit was a job. Pick him up from school, take him to karate, have a hot cooked meal, Budget was a little tight too. I mean, budget was tight. Wasn't no splurging, wasn't no, one of my pastimes pre-COVID was I enjoy going to the movie theaters and watching a good movie, eating me some this one movie theater I enjoy going out here. It's called Movie and Eatery, and they got some of the best food, healthy food, and I don't drink sodas, but I'll drink like ice water and lemonade, or I get a coffee. And man, that place is it's worth it financially. It really is, in my opinion. Nice recliner seats, great service. But when I wasn't working, I couldn't make them trips to Movie and Eatery. No sir, no ma'am. I was on a budget. Had to, watch the finances. Why? Because my wife was the only one working. And of course after that, I ended up getting me a third shift job because I'm one, I can't sit still for too long. It's just not in me. I'll take a break sometime, but then I'll get back on it, But anyway, I could understand where a stay-at-home wife is like, shit, I'm burned out. I'm watching these kids, changing these diapers, cooking you a meal, sexing you whenever you want it. Man, that is a job. And we live in a modern day society where women work. Women are in high power positions. I'm not a feminist or anything like that, but I have no problem with a woman working. I have no problem with working for a woman. It doesn't bother me at all because that doesn't put any strain on my manhood. You dig what I'm saying? So I just feel that when I hear women say they want to be a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home wife, I feel like they're living in La La Land. Because I know what it is when one person is working and the other person staying at home. It's not the same as two steady incomes coming in. It's different. Even saving money is different because again, you have one person working. So, you can save a little bit, but you can't save as much as you would if two people are working. And my thing is, why would you not want to be productive in the world? Whether that's even having your own business. And I'm not talking about some at-home business where you're not making over $3,000 to $4,000 a month. We're going to say, if you're not making over $3,500 a month consistently, because the average salary for a black man in America is $40,000. The average salary for a white man in America is $50,000. The highest paid people in America is between the Asians and the Native Africans from the continent of Africa that come to America. Those are the highest paid people in the United States of America. So you got to take all that into consideration. And like I said, I've been laid off twice. And Thank God my wife was working. And don't get me wrong. Back in the, Leave It to Beaver days of June Cleaver, shit, I imagine Leave It to Beaver's father was probably making, and of course this is fictitious, but I imagine back then making $1,000 a month was good money. The cost of living was cheaper. Taxes were not as high. Gas was like 10 cents a damn gallon. I worked with an older gentleman at the company when I was an hourly man, and he's passed away since. He was at the company for like 60 years. And he told me when he came in like in the 50s, his salary was $2 an hour. And I said, man, were you struggling? He's like, no, that was a good living back then. A loaf of bread was 10 cents. So that means your rent probably was, or your mortgage probably was $50 a month. If that, back in those days. So back in those days, if a man making $10 an hour in the 50s and 60s, that's good money. You could support a family of 3 to 4 or 5 kids off of that because the cost of living was cheaper. You could do a little bit more with that. You could have, I want to say the price of a new car then was like $1,000. So back then that was more feasible. And it was more realistic. Fast forward now, 70, 80 years later, that's not feasible anymore. In fact, for you to even think that that's a reality is insane. Number one, why would you want your husband to be out here by himself bringing the only income in? That's selfish. I think a lot of women that say that are very selfish. Like I said, when I do these podcasts, man, they come to my mind and it's usually off of another podcast. And I was supposed to do a podcast on Walmart versus Amazon, but I was just sleepy, because I work a lot of hours every day. So when anytime I can get some rest, I will. So I do apologize for those of you that were looking for that podcast. I may do it, I may not, I don't know. But anyway, the myth of the housewife. Do you realize how much money your husband will have to make? For instance, I live in Fort Worth, Texas. Average house is around $200,000. Trying to light my cigar. Forgive me. But this cannot be the Cigars with Mac podcast without a cigar. Anyway, the average price to finance a home or buy a home is around $200,000. And usually when you buy a mortgage, it's based off of when you purchase a home and you're financing, you're getting a mortgage. For the most part, it's based off of what your salary is. Overtime is not included. So for a house around $200,000, you typically have to make around, I would say on the low end, 50 maybe, but I know no less. I would say on the low, $60,000 on the low end. $60,000 on the low end. Yep. You're talking to a man that knows. I remember when I made around 40 grand a year, that was about 10 years ago, 40 grand base pay. Well, actually, I calculated it hourly, so it's around 40 grand, give or take. I only qualified for a house up to 120. But me being the guy I was, I knew damn well I wasn't gonna buy a house for no 120. There was no way. I got a house for like 105. But anyway, that just tells you how it goes. They are not handing out mortgages like that. They don't do. Even when I purchased my home, that was after the 2008 mortgage crisis. So they were, purchasing homes. The guidelines were strict, very strict, for a reason, because they didn't want what happened in 2008 to happen again. But anyway, for an individual to think that that's feasible is insane. But anyway, so I did the math, and we're talking about a family of two, a husband, wife, 2 children. You're gonna have to make somewhere in a ballpark to be very comfortable of about $200,000 for one person to stay at home. You know you want the kids to play sports, that costs money. So that's probably, depending on what kind of sport it is, depending on how often they're playing sports. If you include the fees, so we're gonna say $150, we're gonna say $80. So if you have 3 or 4 sports your kid is playing in, we're talking about a child not in middle school yet, you're looking at about extra $500 a year. And that's just to be safe. It could be more. Trust me, I know. Do you think you can do all that, buy cleats, buy the equipment? And if you are, one of those parents who want to really invest in your child, you're going to pay for extra lessons. That could be $200 a month. So you're looking at roughly around $3 grand a year on sports for your children, tutoring and all that shit. That shit costs money, man. And then if you get into a marriage with a man like that, we know student loans is the number one debt in this country, next to, I want to say, credit cards. So student loan, unless you're student loan free, when you get married, your husband has to absorb your debts. That's just what it is. So, you have student loan debt and your ass don't want to work. So he has to pay your student loan debt. So we're looking at a $500 a month payment for the next umpteen years. And then he's probably in student loan debt. You follow what I'm saying now? You see why the stay-at-home wife is a myth. It's not realistic because you have debts. You have debt, man. No logical thinking man, if he runs the numbers, there's no way you can stay at home. Then you got to pay for childcare when both of y'all work, because both of y'all will have to work. I'm sorry. That's just the truth of it. I didn't make the rules. I didn't create this game. I just play it. So you have to ask yourself, can you really be a stay-at-home mom with all that debt? I remember a lady I connected with on LinkedIn. We were discussing her moving to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. She had started a job with a big corporation out here. I will not name it. But JCPenney's laid her off. She wasn't even out here a year. Her and her husband came from Florida, where the cost of living is a shitload higher than Dallas-Fort Worth. And she moved to, I want to say, Frisco, which is a very nice which is a very nice suburb out here in Dallas-Fort Worth. And straight up, man, she lost her job. She lost her fucking job, man. The house that they bought, she told me that they got the house off of both of their incomes. So while she was looking for her a job, her husband was paying the bills, unless she, dipped into her 401k, if she even had time to even put money in there. I hope she's found a job since then. I don't keep up with her anymore. But I hope she's found a job, because where she lives is 20 times higher than where I live. Her house could have been, I know, at least $300,000 easy. And the taxes out there are outrageous. The taxes where I live is somewhere around $4,000 to $5,000 a year, and they keep going up, which is a good thing. Well, she's in Frisco. I work with a guy who lived in McKinney, which is not far from Frisco. His taxes were between $8,000 to $10,000 a year. Do you hear me? So you gotta look at, if he has a $1,500 a month mortgage, $1,600 a month mortgage, tack on another $1,000. It's almost $3,000 a month to live out there. The average APR on a mortgage is somewhere between 2.5 and 5%. Let's just say he got a 2% interest rate on his mortgage. Still, that's another, if it's $1,000, that's still another, $1,500 with taxes alone. Oh, let's not forget HOA dues. I've heard of HOA dues being $300 a month. I knew a guy, he had HOA dues in Plano. He paid around $300 a month. Within those HOA dues, they had people come out and cut the yard of everybody every week, because that's a lot. That's somewhere damn near around $4,000 a year in HOA dues. And the HOA managed the yard, kept it up to code, but they paid for that. $300 a month in HOA dues. So that's why I tell you, the stay-at-home wife is a myth. It's not happening. I'm sorry. So, can you imagine a man making $200,000, paying $3,000 a month in mortgage? Let's say his cars are paid for, which is a good thing. $3,000 a month. And then we talk about kid activities, groceries, utilities. His wife is not working now. We're talking about he's the only sole provider with income. He's spending somewhere between $5,000 to $7,000 a month. Well, I would say $5,000, somewhere around $5,000 a month. $3,000 to $4,000. Let's say $3,500 to $5,000 a month in bills. That's insane, people. That's somebody's salary. I've even heard of stay-at-home moms paying, them being stay-at-home moms, and they have a child in daycare so the kid can be exposed to other children. That's what I'm saying. You gotta be realistic. Like I said, everybody has these work-at-home businesses nowadays. But if your business is not making a consistent residual income, then you're in trouble. You are in serious trouble. So you got to take those things into consideration. Gotta take that into consideration. I just wanted to touch on that for a minute. I may be coming back for a part 2 on the myth of the stay-at-home wife. Anyway, thank you for tuning into the Cigars of Mac podcast. I am your host, Big Mac. I'm out.
Looking for your next great hire? CareerBuilder is the fastest growing job site in the U.S. with over 140 million candidate profiles and growing. Plus, candidates on CareerBuilder have skills for the most in-demand occupations. Let us help you rebuild and rehire a strong, more diverse workforce fast. CareerBuilder, we're building for you. Visit hiring.careerbuilder.com/recruit.
Reinvent yourself at UCLA Extension. Explore continuing education programs to enhance and expand your skill set. Gain real-world skills taught by industry experts that you can apply immediately. Learn from anywhere and choose from a wide variety of online courses in entertainment, digital technology, business, engineering, and more. Winter quarter begins January 4th. Learn more at uclaextension.edu.